Hello, Delighters. I hope you're having a beautiful day. As a reminder, this is the second half of our episode with our lovely guest today. So if you haven't heard the first half, I have linked it below. So go on, listen to the first half, and then come back. Come back to this one. Well, I have one of these stories for you. Some of them are long, some of them are just like really interesting, like wild, but this one here is about phone use. So
Okay.
it's coming from this subreddit called Am I the Asshole? So, am I the asshole for restricting my daughter's phone after she broke the rules of having it? So, my daughter, 13, loves her phone. One condition of having said phone is that periodically we can check it at random times to make sure she's not doing anything that we need to be concerned with, or if she breaks two explicit rules. We've told her that we will restrict her phone if we found that she's to break either of these rules. Rule 1, talk to people she doesn't know in person.
Yep.
And then rule 2, to take or receive sexual pictures. So this is a little bit long, so I'm going to cut some things out of it, but y'all, you can find it on that subreddit. So they said, we randomly spot checked yesterday. We found she was talking to 3 men she doesn't know.
Ooh.
Asked how she met them, and she stated that they added her on Snapchat while she was in the city, and then she moved them across to WhatsApp. 2 of the 3 had disappearing messages activate, which makes us suspicious as hell, and it breaks our rules, so we've blocked, deleted, and have implemented restrictions on her phone. Then they went to say...
I'm all for that, by
Yeah.
the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are for safety purposes.
It then ends with, she went mad, calling us a dickhead and saying that we have taken it too far, but I think the restrictions are reasonable precaution until she can prove that she can be sensible or becomes an adult. She said that all of her friends do it, and my response are, wow, your friends being pedo bait isn't my problem, which again, she called me a dickhead. So am I the asshole for restricting her phone after she broke these 2 rules? What do you think?
And here, I didn't want to say the word sex before. I didn't want to get you in trouble. So, no, I think the mom is right for that, especially because they had those rules set up ahead of time. It would have been a different scenario if they didn't have those set rules and that the daughter didn't already agree to those and then she was doing that kind of stuff. I think that's totally fine. That is absolutely trying to keep her safe. Who knows who those men are, how old they are, what are they doing with the photos. I actually just recently did a project for Meta about sextortion, letting parents know, like, these are the steps to take if your child is being extorted via photos. And I didn't realize it was such a huge problem. It's a huge problem. It's actually a even bigger problem on Snapchat because of the disappearing messages and stuff like that. It is a huge problem. What people are doing are, well, they have a couple different ways to do it, but they are getting children, teenagers, let's say, getting teenagers to send photos. And then once they do send the photos, and then they are either requesting money or gift cards in exchange. It's blackmail, money or gift cards in exchange for like not sharing those photos. And sometimes these men are pretending that they're other teenagers. More often than not, they're actually like older. And they're pretending to be like, I'll show you mine if you show me yours. And then the kids are like, okay. But they either might be using like AI generated photos for themselves or someone else's photos, like as if they were their own. And then they're convincing these kids to like send these sexy pics. And then they're like, okay, well, now I have these sexy pics. I need $1,000. I need $500 in Amazon gift cards, like whatever it is. And it's actually becoming a really big problem. And so Amazon has a program in conjunction with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It's a website called Take It Down. And Take It Down is like a way that they're able to like put a code to those photos so that they don't get leaked onto the internet. And if they do get leaked onto the internet, then they get it pulled down. So that's something that's like really near and dear to my heart because I did just recently work on that project.
Yeah.
So yeah, that mom she's right for doing that. Especially because those rules were set out in advance. That's a wild one. That is a classic modern mom problem, though.
That right there scared the shit out of me because
I mean, as it should, right?
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot, because I was graduating high school in the time when social media was like really starting to pick off. And I
Mm-hmm.
even remember starting to feel like a little addicted to it during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I like, what are your thoughts on managing this, like this online space? And also, I just have to say, y'all, my brain's
Yeah.
going so fast, but I'm so excited that we talked about this and how it's also like disruptive of like our communities and our like a friendship problem. This digital space, I think, Meghan Markle said it best. She was like, when the car was invented, there were no seatbelts, people were getting in accidents. And then as time went on, they were like, hey, actually, let's put some safety precautions in place. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what those are yet. I don't have answers, but I do think I really hope for some kind of safety belts for this for everybody. But yeah, like, what are your thoughts on navigating this like online world with your kids? I don't even know where to
Yeah.
begin.
No, no, right? I mean, that's honestly what it is. It's like, where do we even begin? I've been reading article after article about countries, not in the US yet, but in countries like Australia. It actually just happened this week that they voted to ban social media for anyone younger than 16. So
Mm.
the age there is 16. In the US right now, it's currently 13, but anyone that's 13 has a teen account versus if they're like 16, 17, 18, there's actually, they get like older accounts or like the average standard account. So there are some precautions in place, but I don't necessarily know if it's enough, right? And so what can we do about that? We could have open conversations with our kids. I think that's the single biggest thing that parents can do is like to talk honestly and in a regulated way, in a calm way, to lead with curiosity and not with judgment. That's what people always say, right? Lead with curiosity. Ask them like, what are your interests when you're on social? Like, what kind of stuff are you looking at? Is it okay if I like follow some of the same accounts that you're following just to get an idea of the kind of stuff that you're looking into? And to tell them that like if you do see anything that's inappropriate or scary or that you think like I should know about, like come to me. Like I'm not going to be mad. But I need to know. Like if someone's coming to you in your DMs and is asking you to take, a topless photo, like I need to know that kind of stuff so that we could like work together to like block that person and then possibly report him, right? So the conversations are key. And something, even without social media, that I wasn't anticipating being as toxic as they are, but I now know from experience that they are group chats. These
Mm,
teen group chats are off the hook toxic. Toxic
really?
like you can't imagine toxic. Um, and that I wasn't prepared for because everyone's always talking about like social media, which is true. And I'm not saying that that's not the case because it absolutely is the case. And these group chats are super toxic. My son was in a group chat, I guess it was like 2 years ago now, that was like so toxic. And I ended up being like the whistleblower on it. And I called up the other moms and I was like, hey, listen, like this is what's going on in the chat. Like I do know what's going on in my son's messages. Not everyone does. Many people don't. And people needed to be aware of what was happening in this chat. And most of the moms, all of the moms except for one, were like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, like thank you so much for letting me know. Like it was bullying and racism, it was just like all kinds of stuff. And they were like, thank you so much, like I'll talk to my son, thank you for letting me know. One mom was like, are you calling me a bad mom? And I was like, no, no,
Mm.
I'm calling you as a friend, as a peer to like let you know what's going on in this group chat. She did not take it well. But everyone else was like, we're on the same team here. Like we understand. Because at any given point, that could be their son on the receiving or their child on the receiving end of what was happening in this group chat. And now my son is in another group chat with totally different people. He does not partake in it. Like he's like just in the group chat. So like we see the messages that kind of come through. But actually they come through on my laptop because for whatever reason it's all like, I don't know, the messages are like popping up on my laptop. But so we see what comes through and it is so toxic. It is like every other word's the F word. Every other word's like go off yourself and go do this and go do
Oh,
that. And it's just
wow.
like, what is happening here? And so those group chats I think are just as important, if not more important than a lot of the social media stuff that people are seeing.
Yeah. That is such a good point. And it makes me think too, like there's so many things I was curious about and that honestly is reflected in the story that you just gave because
Mm,
there aren't a lot of social scripts for this, right? Like a lot of people are like, okay, I am trying to figure this out. Like, what do I want to like model for like our relationship with this? How do I want to like, what guidelines do I want to set? And everybody's doing that. And so your example really models like, okay, how do we figure out? And I love that you approached it with like, no, I'm coming to you as a friend, as a peer, as a collaborator, as in we're on the same team. Like you can have different rules and guidelines and etc. for your child, but you know, I'm concerned. I think that is really helpful. It's also interesting though, the bad mom sentiment of that too.
I
Like,
thought I was not prepared for that because out of the five, let's say I talked to five moms that day, right?
mhm,
Who were all part of, like, whose children were all part of this thing. She and I were probably the closest in friends. The other ones were sort of just like acquaintances, more or less.
mhm,
And she and I were the closest of friends. And she was the one that took offense to it. And so I think that was part of the thing that was like so shocking that, like I said, I'm calling as a friend. I'm calling to let you know, like, our sons were at that point, they're not anymore, but we're at that point best friends. And I was calling to say, like, hey, friend, like, this is what's going on in the chat. Like, I think you should like take a look at this. And she just was like, absolutely not. Like, I don't see any fault here, whatever. And so sometimes you could just, try to fight the good fight, and you don't always know what someone's going to say in a situation like that,
mhm,
and sometimes friendships do dissolve,
mhm,
and sometimes people fight over different things. But yeah, that was an interesting one because, like I said, every other parent was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I can't believe I'm going to talk to my son, I'm going to take his phone away, like, I can't believe people are talking like that in the chat. And the funny thing too is, like, there are screenshots because now, you have phones, or you have screenshots, like, you could find all of this stuff for the most part. um and so it's hard to argue against screenshots when you literally have the receipts.
yeah,
You're like, here are the receipts of what's going on here. So
mhm.
yeah, not everyone is going to always be on the same page.
Right. And I do think it takes communication. And I love one thing I say a lot is like you could send an invitation, but you can't, oh my gosh, you can't force them to accept. I promise I say it a lot. I know I stumbled,
Mm,
but you can't force them to accept. And
yeah.
you were offering an invitation in that moment to honestly connect deeper and be like, hey, let's collaborate as, as parents. How are we going to handle this? Just wanted to let you
Hmm.
know, like, you can't force somebody to accept that. And sometimes, y'all, because a lot of people will say things, and I know we talked about this on your podcast.
Mm,
A lot of times people will say to me, but how do you know? Like, almost like they want to predict ahead of time of how people are going to react or what friends to invest in. And there are certain things that we can look for, but y'all, honestly, sometimes it's just you learn. That's it.
yeah.
You learn through conversations like this. You learn, okay, is somebody willing to meet you where you are at, or are they not?
Hmm.
So it's that can be really uncomfortable. But anyway, I love what you said on that. I have a couple of other ones I want to share. This one isn't super duper about friendship, if you will, or can't like relate, I guess, in that kind of way. But I thought it was really interesting because can see friends arguing this way. So anyway,
Yeah, I want to hear.
um,
I'm curious to see what
yeah.
this one's going to be.
So it's also coming from Am I the Asshole? And it says, shamed my mom for being a stay at home mom. So, to preface, I have absolutely nothing against being a stay at home mom. Most of the time, if it works for your lifestyle, etc., it's the best choice. However, I, 25 female, am a mom that works full time at a demanding job, and I feel like my mom, who was a stay at home mom, she's now 64, makes little jabs at me for spending money on things. For example, things like purchasing meal prep services or hiring a cleaner. I always get remarks like, when I had you and your brother, I was cooking and cleaning myself. Recently, my husband and I are planning an event for our baby out of town where his family lives and are using an internet site to make the invitations. We are at my parents' for the holidays and they noticed what we were doing. And so my mom looked over my shoulder at my laptop and made a remark like, $100 for invitations? That's ridiculous. I used to make all of our invitations and cards by hand, and it was much cheaper. And I just lost my patience. And I said, when I'm at stay at home mom, I'll remember to do that. She looked instantly annoyed and said, I don't have respect for stay at home moms. I do have respect for stay at home moms. I just acknowledge that generally they have more time for stuff like that. And I'm tired of feeling judged for paying somebody else to do the stuff I don't have time or energy for. I feel bad for making her feel bad and like I was shaming her. So am I the asshole? What do you think?
No, I don't think you're the asshole. I think your mom's the asshole in that situation. You know what? That's a classic. It's the classic divide of the war of, stay at home moms and working moms. But really, at the heart of that, it reminds me of the monologue in the Barbie movie where America Ferrera is saying, like, women can't win. You do one thing and you can't win, and you do this and you can't win, and there's just no winning either way. And that's exactly how I see that particular argument there. It's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. How they could come to a solution. I mean, I'll tell you the reason why I said that the mom was the asshole. I'll give you my like rationale there is like, she doesn't need to say those things. She's stirring the pot by commenting on things like that at all. Like, she could just be like, oh, what pretty invitations, and then leave it at that. You don't have to like comment about like the cost of invitations or anything. Just don't say anything, or anything about, I don't know what some of the other examples were about, the meal prep service and the cleaning lady and stuff like that. Like, just like move on. So the only reason why I'm saying that the mom's the asshole is because she doesn't have to be saying those things, and she's starting something by simply bringing it up and saying anything. You just have to say, like, I understand how hard you're working right now, and it's great that you have extra money to be able to do those things. I wish I would have had that when I was a kid. I bet the mom is probably trying to validate her life choices to a certain degree by putting down what the daughter's doing now, right? Like, they try to validate their choices by bringing down others, which is terrible. And I hate that. And it happens all the time, but it's just sort of the way things are sometimes, unfortunately. But yeah, the mom doesn't need to start stuff. She's starting it unnecessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I love that you brought up the Barbie movie and that you can't win. It's really interesting to me too, because I know that we as women, we've internalized those messages, right? And I
Yeah.
think sometimes we don't realize that we are projecting them onto each other too, of like, oh, you should be able to, make the cards or clean or cook for your family. We don't realize, like, okay, where's that expectation coming from? I coach a lot of moms on connection and making space for connection in their schedules. And one thing that comes up for them a lot, whether they're a stay-at-home mom, whether they're a working mom, or whether it's just a client of mine that is child free but has friends that are moms, there's almost like this uncomfortability of like talking about it. And I think the situation's different. This is a mother and a daughter situation, which has its own thing. But
I mean, that probably goes deep. It's not just this particular thing. Because if the mom's saying that, like, I bet she has all kinds of things that she like probably goes in there with on her daughter.
Oh, for sure. For sure. It made me think about some of my clients. And I think sometimes we need to be mindful of the expectations that we have of each other. And honestly, I think a modern mom prob is that it comes out when we see our friends become mothers, or when we become mothers and then our friends become mothers. Like, are these expectations of what it means to, I think we honestly are stretching it and are trying to be like the perfect mom, and then we expect our friends to be the same way. I don't know. What do you think?
No, 1,000%. Yes, that is 100%. I think one of the biggest modern mom problems are the expectations that we're putting on ourselves because of society has told us that you need to be the perfect mom and the perfect partner and all of that kind of stuff. And so that is a huge thing. And for me personally, I only started to feel like really free in my role once I started to shed those expectations. So that's my recommendation for people is like, if you can, like, start to, shed those expectations and really be you, and not the you that, like, you feel like you have to be up here. It's like, maybe my me is here, right? But
Yeah.
or maybe my me is all the way up here. I don't
Yeah.
know. But like, shed those expectations, because they're only going to weigh you down. And I'm not saying, like, don't have high standards for yourself. Sometimes people I've heard say, like, well, if you're setting those expectations, it means your standards are low. Like, no, that's not, like, expectations are expectations and standards are standards, right? They're two different things. Keep your standards high, but you don't have to hit all of those expectations that someone else is putting on you. I think your standards are sort of like for yourself, and the expectations are external. One's like internal and one's external.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Like, we don't have to go for perfection, and also you can go for what is good enough to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, I want to squeeze one more in here because I
Yeah.
know that
Do
you've
it.
got to go.
Yeah. Do it. Do it. I'm so curious. I can't wait to hear it.
This one is just interesting to me, but I wanted to highlight it for something. Oh, it's so long, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
paraphrase it,
No,
everybody.
go ahead. Yeah. That's cool.
So it's, am I the asshole for having my mom come over so I could take a shower while she watched my newborn? So my husband and I had a baby 2 weeks ago.
I have
She
such
is
a funny story about that, but go ahead.
really, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. But I want to hear her story.
Yeah. She is strictly breastfed and does not only cluster feed, but she also finds comfort in being close to me. Therefore, there's not much I can do without her, and more often than not, I'm completely okay with that. But one thing that this does mean is that I don't get to shower by myself, and I've only showered by myself once since having her, and it lasted long enough for me to soap up before she was crying and my husband was bringing her in to me. I think I literally had all of 2 to 3 minutes. With that said, my husband, of course, hasn't had to change his life around at all. Every day and nearly every night, he is taking 30 to 60-minute uninterrupted showers. He doesn't understand the frustration I get when he showers. That's the only thing that bothers me. I want to shower, I want to sit under the water and relax my muscles, but like I said, every time I attempt, the baby starts crying. Because he knows that showers calm her down and he doesn't like her crying, he will bring her into me when she is in the shower. So I get his thought process, but it makes it feel like it's a cop out at the same time. So I called my mom and asked her to come watch the baby so I could shower and shave my legs, and because it's been all patchy. She's so detailed here.
Yeah,
It's been all patchy for 5 days now. she said I needed self-care. My husband was home, and my husband was home when I asked my mom to come by. I didn't tell him. She shows up, takes the baby, and I go to shower. My husband comes in at some point and asks why my mom is here, and I tell him so I could shower. And he says, I could have watched her. Why would you do that? So I said, every time you watch her while I shower, she ends up here with me within 2 minutes of me being in here.
Okay, I could jump in on this. I'm gonna say a couple of thoughts on this quickly. One, no, I don't think that this mom is the asshole, but I can see areas of improvement. I think she really needs to communicate with her husband better and really lay down those boundaries of, like, I am going to take a shower. You do whatever you have to do with that baby to get her to stop crying while I'm taking this shower. And so, because that's going to be the case when this baby is 2 weeks old or when this baby is 2 years old. Like, you have to set those boundaries. You have to have those conversations with your husband. And so I see what he's doing, and he's like, I can't deal with this. But you know what? It's his baby too. It's his baby, and he needs to figure out what to do. Just like that mom's home during the day going, what am I going to do here? She's figuring it out, right? You got to figure it out. So they need to have a conversation together of, like, I'm going to lock the door and pretend I'm not home. If the baby's crying, she's crying, cuddle her, hold her, put her in the carrier, whatever you have to do. Just do it. So that's what I would say about that, because that mom needs that time to decompress. Like she said, she needs to, like, shave her legs, relax her muscles, feel the water on her face, wash her hair, all the things. I understand that. I was in that exact same place. So this really resonates with me. Like, it really resonates with me. So she needs to protect her time, and he needs to do whatever he has to do to not bring that baby in. I mean, I have in the past, and I've seen this done too, is like sometimes I've seen moms put the baby in a carrier or like a bouncy chair or something on the floor of the bathroom so that they're like all in the bathroom together. Maybe I did that like once or twice, if that. But I've definitely seen people do that.
Yeah.
But I remember not showering for a very long time when my son was born. Like when she said like showered once in like 2 weeks, like that's not an exaggeration. It's like, yeah, that's pretty par for the course. At least it was for me too, because I also didn't have any help. But she needs to have a conversation. She needs to be like, you need to do whatever you have to do with that baby to not bring her in here. So that's
Yeah.
on him. It's on him. He needs to get it together because
Yeah.
she needs time to herself to take a shower. He needs to just figure it out
A
and just
thousand
buck up.
percent. A
Yeah, he needs to
thousand
buck up.
percent.
So I'm going to tell you this
It's
last story, and then I'm
okay.
going to bounce, and I think you're going to think it's funny. And so when my son was born, my husband, he had a couple days off, and then he like had a week off later on. But in between like his couple days off, and then when he had like a week off to help me afterwards, my mother and my mother-in-law came in to see me, and they were supposed to be like, oh, the mother-in-laws are going to come help out. And I thought, so like we lived in New York City, they lived in New Jersey. My father-in-law dropped the two moms off, and then I don't even know where he went. He disappeared. So then the moms come and they're like, okay, we have the baby, go take a shower. And I remember taking a shower, and it was probably the best shower I ever had because I wasn't worried about the baby. Like I was like, I could wash my hair, I could shave my legs, I could take my time, I could sing, like whatever it is, right? You're just like really relishing in that shower. And I remember that. So that's why this girl's story resonates with me so much.
Yeah.
So I get out of the shower. I put on some like real clothes. I think I was wearing real clothes. And I was like, wow, man, look at me. Like I'm a person again. I almost feel like halfway human again. And then the moms, I take a shower, I get dressed, I come out. And then the moms are like, okay, here's the baby, hands me back the baby, who was like sleeping. He wasn't even like crying or anything. Hands me back. They're like, oh, we're going to like go run out. I think we're going to like go to the store and maybe like get our eyebrows threaded or something. And I was like, okay. So the two of them leave, and then they're gone for like an hour or two, to the point where I'm like, where did they go? Where did they like straight up disappeared? Like, where are these women? And I can't remember whether or not I went downstairs. So I was in a high-rise building, and there was like 20 floors in my building. I don't remember if I like took the baby and we went downstairs to go find them, or if I stayed in the apartment the entire time waiting for them to return. I don't remember. I want to say that maybe I didn't take the baby out and that I was just waiting for them. So they come back, and I'm like, where were you guys? And they're like, oh, we like went shopping for a little bit, and then we got our eyebrows done, and then we came back. And I was like, what? Like, and so then maybe like a half hour after that, my father-in-law picks them up and then like takes them home. And I thought they were going to sleep over and everything. We had like pullouts like all ready for them and stuff. And like he took them home. And then that was it. And that was the only help that I had during my son's newborn phase at all, aside from my husband. I was the only help I had, and it was really only to take a shower and then be nervous that the two of them got lost in New York City.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
It's a true story. It's a true story. And it was just one of those things where I was like, what alternative, like what happened here? They like, I think they were just excited to like be in the city, but like they were in the city like for a purpose, like you guys aren't going to go to like Times Square and go see a Broadway show. Like you were coming in, you could do that at any point. They live in New Jersey. It doesn't take much. Like they were coming in to babysit, or not even to babysit, just to like be with me and support me with this new baby that we just had. So the shower thing, I get that. So I just thought I thought that story was funny. I just had to share that with you.
And I know you have to go, and I just appreciate you so much. I wanted to share that story because I love that you touched on it. She needs to set boundaries. He needs to step up. Some barriers to women having friends and investing in their communities, honestly, is that their husbands aren't helping at home. And that isn't just like a Jewel thought, y'all. That is
no,
it's
a huge thing. Yeah. It's a huge thing.
And you can hear it too in her post, how she's like, that's the only thing I'm upset about. And it's like, hey, like you said, it was two of them. So I just wanted to bring that up, and you hit the nail on the head. And I just think it's really important come on. this is why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because this is so important. The people that are like giving birth and helping
recovering.
Recovering. Yeah, they need support. They need support. We don't get by doing it alone. Tara, thank you so much for being here. And I cannot believe that is like the only help. I was like waiting for them to come back the entire time and be like,
no,
oh, and then they stayed, and then you were like, nope, and they were gone.
Like I laugh when I tell that story, because my husband and I thought maybe they were going to stay for like, I don't know, a full 24-hour period, which also is not a lot. Like we know many people whose mothers come and stay with them for a week or two or whatever. Not the case. Ours came for about 3 hours, and 2 of those hours they got lost disappearing, exploring New York City. The 1 hour I took a shower. I mean, maybe it wasn't quite full hour shower, but it seemed like an hour, and then I got dressed, and then that was about it. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's that was an interesting time. No, that was the only help. But that's why in my life I have created my own village. And it's important to create your own village when you don't have one, whether it's in person or online.
And it can, y'all. It can. I have a friend that has children, and I would drop absolutely anything if she needed it. And it's important. It's so important. So, and it's possible. Like, there are people that want to be there for you. They're really, really are.
Oh no, absolutely. There are tons of people. Sure.
So where can people find you? What do you have going on next?
So everyone can find me online at Modern Mom Probs. Follow me there on Instagram. Listen to the podcast, especially the episode with Jewel. It was a really, really good one. I loved chatting with her. It was so good. So listen to the podcast. Follow me on Modern Mom Probs. DM me and we could chat. Like, I am in my DMs. I love connecting with people. And that's it. So yeah, that's the deal.
Oh, you're just so down to earth. I just adore you.
Oh, thank you. I adore you.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And thank you all for hanging out with us today. I'm just absolutely delighted to have you here. So thank you so much.
Oh, you made my whole day. Thanks, Jewel.
Thanks for joining me on the Socially Delightful podcast. I'm Jewel, and I'm truly so grateful that you came and hung out with me today. If this podcast meant something to you, it would mean so much to me if you left me a review so that way I could keep making content that you love. And if you really want to make my whole day, share this podcast to your Instagram story and tag me at Connection with Jewel so I can shout you out. Or send me a message and let me know what resonated with you or what you want to hear next. And I'll see you at the next episode.